this is something interesting. That the question was interesting because that's basically when anybody is asking about spirituality, that's one of the places that nobody want to go. So when he asked me, I was excited about it because at least I got to talk about it, and two, I got to inform everybody about my stand, what I think about it. And after answering him, I decided, you know what, I think we should do this. I think we should do this. I think we should do this. So here we go. I'm going to talk about sex and spirituality. Aquaba. I'm excited. I'm super excited to come your way today. I'm your humble servant, Kojo. Until then, please, if you haven't hit the subscription button, make sure you hit the subscription button. Share the videos. Let's grow this family. I think we are stuck with 164. We gotta grow. We gotta go. We gotta catch the 200. We gotta catch the 200. So please, let's grow this family. And I know that we will do amazing things when we hit that 1,000 subscription. So I can wait. But let's talk about fornication. A brother was asking me, what is your take on fornication? What do you think fornication is? Do you think it's evil? Do you think fornication is a sin? And we were talking about it, and I was like, fornication. So the truth of the matter is, if you are going according to the scriptures, then fornication is not a sin. But if you are going according to the New Testament, then of course you frown upon it and you say fornication is a sin. This is something nobody should get involved. This is something nobody should try and do. And I get it. I get people's reservation about fornication and all of that. But I think in the commandments, one of the things that the Most High spoke about boldly is adultery, that is going after somebody's wife. Or hence, anytime the word fornication is used, it was used not in the sexual form or prostitution. It was used not in a sexual form, but it was used when an individual or a group or a nation goes after another god. You understand? So it was like you already have a god, or you already have a divine being, somebody that you pray to, you communicate to, and you are going after another, right? So the Most High said they have prostituted themselves, or they have committed fornication by mingling with the gods of the other nations. So it means that so long as they were with the Most High, that wasn't considered fornication. The point I'm trying to make is that fornication was considered more of a spiritual sin than it was of a physical sin. That's why when you go to the scriptures, it is read that, and they prostituted themselves and went after strange gods. That's why you can hear verses like, they fornicated, Israel fornicated going after these strange gods, right? But there was never a single time in the scriptures that you read anywhere that any young man committed fornication, right? Even when the sister of Reuben was defiled, the young man went ahead to say that I want to marry her, right? But there was no sin held against the young man, because the young man decided to do the right thing by going to marry the daughter of Jacob. But what happens is that once the man comes forth and says that I want, because the law is that when a young man puts the young lady to bed or get the young lady pregnant, then the young lady has to be married, has to be honored by the man's family coming into the woman's family and asking her hand in marriage, right? So what happened is that because there was nothing against what the young man, there was no sin, there was no law against what the young man has done, the brothers decided that no, we are not going to let go, right? So they went ahead to kill this young guy. Why am I bringing this point up? Because in the eyes of the Most High, fornication is not considered a sin. Remember, fornication is a New Testament teaching. So the question becomes, how were they then controlling their young men? You know, it's already a sin in the eyes of the Most High for you to have sex and then at the point of ejaculation, you pull out and spill it to the ground. So because the children of Israel knew that when you go into a woman, you cannot spill it to the ground, they were not going into the women in the first place. If anytime you saw a young man caught or be with a young lady, it meant that the man has intentions of marrying or being with this young lady. You know what I'm saying? So every time that happened, they knew the next thing they do is that you are definitely going to marry this young lady. So in our culture, in our system, the minute, I mean not modern day, but those days, the minute a young man is with a young girl, the entire family is aware that this man is the one doing or being, this man is the one having a relationship with this young lady. So the minute the lady gets pregnant, everybody knows who they are going. Right? So because certain sins like spilling your sperm to the ground was a sin, that is how come the young men were not sleeping around anyways. This includes using condoms, whatever method, whatever thing you want to use. In the eyes of the Most High, you are committing an offense. You are committing a sin because you are spilling your sperm. Why is sperm so important in the realms of the spirit? The price of sperm in the realms of the spirit is simply priceless. Why is it simply priceless? Because the sperm in the realms of the spirit is not just an ejaculated fluid substance. No, it is the worth of an entire nation. It is the worth of an entire nation, an entire generation. Let's consider this thing. What is the population of this world? 7 point something billion, right? 7 point something billion. Okay. In the lifespan of a man, the man is going to produce 525 billion sperm cells. 525 billion sperm cells, right? This means that when a single man is moving, the man is not just a single unit. There's an entire race of mini me's, mini him, living in him, right? Let me ask you, what is the value of a man? Or what is the value of one's life? Priceless, right? So imagine the value of not just one, but 525 billion of the same life. Nothing can pay for it. So in the realms of the spirit, the sperm is very pricey. It's very pricey to the extent that the minute you spill your sperm, not just the creator, but all the divine beings, all the powers there be, immediately goes like, what? This dude or this guy just wasted an entire generation. And that is not taken lightly at all in the realms of the spirit. That is why anybody that was spiritual or anybody that knew spirituality was not wasting their sperm. The body contains the 100% of the body's energy is broken down to 3 segments, right? First 25 is stored up in the sexual organ. So 25% of your body's energy is stored up in the sexual organs. Another 25 is stored up in the kidney. The rest of the 50 is what powers you as a human being, of your entire body's energy. So every time you release a sperm or you ejaculate as a man, a whole drain of your body's energy. Remember, the minute you go into say 25% of your body's energy is activated. 25%. When your body is ejaculating, it draws energy from the rest of you. It draws energy from the rest of your body. Meaning what? That moment of ejaculation, 25% of your body's energy is on the balance. Right? So once that goes out, you are short of 25% of your body's energy. Now, the body, when you are relaxing and all that, have to recoup. That's why it's believed scientifically that when you have sex, don't get up and move around. But what you have to do, you have to lay down, relax, for the body to recoup that energy that has gone out. Every time you're having sex, 25, remember, 25 of your body's energy is being used at that point. Right? The rest of the 75, 25 is also stored in the kidney. And this 25 is only for emergencies. It's not used until there's an emergency, whether it's a medical emergency or whether it's a survival emergency. Right? When it's a survival emergency, all of a sudden the brain produces energy, your heart produces energy, all of it mixing together produces what we call the adrenaline that instantly puts you in survival mode. Right? When it's not a survival emergency and it's a health emergency, the 25% of your energy stored up in the kidney is what immediately comes to save your life when you have a critical condition. That is why when your kidneys begin to fail, automatically your life begins to drain away. Nothing can save you. Let's come back to the sex. So every time you involve in a sexual encounter and you releases your sperm, both the realms of the spirit and your physical strength, your physical energy comes at risk. So when the sperm is not going into the woman to create life, because it's a whole life force, to create and keep the balance of this life force between the realms of the spirit and this physical realm, automatically you offend and distract the flow of nature. So now therefore, because it's very pricey, the power in charge of you, which you don't see because you are not aware of yourself spiritually, holds that charge against you. Now, if you cannot pay the price of a single man, right? What makes you think you can pay a price of an entire, every ejaculation you produce between 40 million to about 1.2 billion sperm cells, right? So multiply yourself by 1.2. When you ejaculate and the spirit hold it against you, you are in debt 1.2 billion values of sperm count, or 1.2 billion sperm count or sperm cells value, right? When are you going to finish paying that? That is why most men that spread their sperm, spread their seeds, just mess around, sleep with multiple women, financially begin to go down. Every time you ejaculate and it's not being consummated by the woman you've united yourself with, instantly that sperm production is held against you, and all of a sudden you are paying some debt in the realms of the spirit that you can't physically begin to pay for. So every time you ejaculate, you are not just losing your physical strength, spiritually you are incurring debt. It's not just debt. You defile all the forces, all the powers there be that governs you at that time. So in that instant, everything about your life begin to go in disarray. Because the forces there be, the powers there be, fight against you. Nature fights against you because you've just wasted that life stream, right? So all of a sudden, everything about your life does not go well. That is why we have spiritual marriages. Whenever there's a spiritual marriage, what the spirit is actually coming for is not the sex that they want to have with you. It's the sperm that you are producing. It's not the sex, it's the sperm. Most spirits go into spiritual marriages with women because they use the women to collect the sperm from the men. They use the women to collect the sperm for the men. Right? So this, because sperm is very expensive in the realms of the spirit. So sex is not just that which you do because you have a pleasure to fulfill, but it's that which you do because it has a spiritual and physical complications to it. Listen, I'm just scratching the surface. I'm going to come back later to really address it. And I think this is what I want to do. Every Friday, I want to talk more spirituality, okay? So I'm going to make Fridays Spiritual Friday or Spirituality Fridays. I don't know the title I'll give it yet. But every Friday, I want to talk about spiritual. So anybody, because in those days, because they understood the spiritual implications of sperm and sex or ejaculation and sex, people were just not sleeping around and messing around. When you just sleep around, listen, using a condom, in as much as I say fornication is not a sin, when you go and use a condom, where does the sperm go? When you go and throw your sperm to the bin, there are spiritual forces that comes to collect that sperm. Yes, it happens. There are spiritual forces that comes to collect that sperm. So whilst you are wasting the sperm away, they are collecting it. And every spirit that collects your sperm holds it or uses it against you. So whenever a man is in a situation where they just can't help it, but they keep masturbating, do you know what they are doing? They are draining their physical strength, number one. And two, they are draining away their resources. Because the energy that is generated in your sex organ, that energy, when you know how to master it and flip it around, can become a healing energy. It can become strength. It can become a creative force. That is why when most people begin, all these celebrity musicians, when they begin to make a hit and go on a sex spree, all of a sudden their creativity comes down. All of a sudden, their finances, all of a sudden, their talents come down. Any footballer, any athlete, whoever you are, that start messing around, that start sleeping around. All of a sudden, that creativity force that leaves down here begins to drain out. Because those who collect your sperm spiritually begins to hold it against you. When you ejaculate into a woman, the woman is a spiritual being on her own. So because she is a being and she is collecting it, she protects that release that you are going out. She protects that sperm that is coming into her. She keeps it and turns that sperm into life. Right? That is why for any spirit to go into a spiritual marriage with a woman, right? The woman becomes a sort of a bank for that spirit. I think I should take time and go to spiritual marriages and all of that. And spiritual marriages we also go into spiritual covenants and stuff like that. So don't just think that because sex was not a sin, or sex is not considered a sin in the realms of the spirit, so you will just go about and sleep around. When you have sex and you just sleep around, even women, you see, when women sleep with multiple men, all of a sudden they lose their glory. They lose their beauty. When men sleep with multiple women, all of a sudden they lose their strength. They become old. Because sex is not just a physical act. It has spiritual complications to it. When you understand the beauty of the dynamic way the Most High created the productive system and the sex organ, you will cherish it the more, and you will learn how to turn this in, and you will learn how to turn this energy into a creative data bank, creative force, that now all of a sudden everything you think to do, everything you set your mind to, begins to work. Why is it that every time you spend days in fasting and prayer, things work for you faster? Why? Because you are channeling your sexual energy and you are turning into a creative force. So sexual energy is that which turns you into it. Because when you want to power the brain, right? You know the energy is generated from this gland. Those of you who know about the 7 chakras, the basic chakra, which is your sex organ, produces that energy that powers your brain. So when you are somebody that is constantly sleeping around with multiple women, you lose intelligence. It's more complicated and it's more serious than what you think. That is why people become mock. Why? Because they channel that energy into something else. That is why whenever you want to embark on a spiritual exercise, you don't sleep around, you don't have sex. So if you masturbate, if you masturbate in any dimension or any way, whether it's for pleasure, whether you can't control it, whether it's an addiction, this is the first thing you got to do. You got to tell yourself, I am not wasting away, one, my life strength, two, my creative force, and three, my resources. Your life strength, your creative force, and your resources is all gathered up in your sexual organ. So that is how integrated sex is with spirituality. I don't want to take much of your time. Listen, I'm going to find another day. I think I should pick a day that I talk about social stuff and marriage and sex and all of that. But I want to make Fridays strictly spiritual Fridays, right? I want to make Fridays spiritual Fridays where we can just talk about spiritual things and how to grow and hence how to come into the seventh dimension. Hope you are ready for the Sabbath. Hope you're praying. Hope you're studying. I'll meet you tomorrow on the prayer page from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. GMT. We're going to pray. We're going to exercise spiritually. We're going to indeed grow and manifest those things that are hanging in the realms of the divine. Bless you. Have a great night. I love you guys.